Well, this morning, the Office for National Statistics has announced that the UK economy has shrunk by 0.1% in the second quarter of this year. However, the country is not in a recession, of course, due to GDP growing by 0.8% in the first quarter. And as we all know, it's 2 quarters of consecutive negative growth that would mean a recession has taken place. Well, the Bank of England now predicts that the UK will enter recession in the last 3 months of this year and throughout 2023. 5 consecutive quarters is their prediction. Let's bring in the economist Julian Jessop to make sense of what's going on, because there is one element where the forecasters were wrong today. They were predicting a deeper track back. They were predicting even less growth, more negative growth, however you want to phrase it, than the 0.1 we have today. Is that some cause for optimism?
Well, I suppose so, at the margin. The news today was that the fall in economic activity in June was not as big as some people had feared, only about half as big as some people had factored in. So the news today is actually mildly reassuring. You know, the private sector economy seems to be holding up reasonably well, given all the pressures on the economy at the moment from the cost of living crisis. But I think regardless of exactly what the official data tell you, it clearly is going to feel like a recession for many ordinary households who are struggling to pay their heating bills and their energy bills. And the fact also that...
I'll just interrupt you there, because we're showing now a graphic of the real GDP growth across the United Kingdom, the US, Germany and France. A graphic that you have produced showing the comparison between these nations. What does this tell you?
Well, the first point is that the UK is not an outlier. I mean, a lot of people obviously will attribute the weak growth or the fall in GDP in the second quarter to Brexit or blame the Tories. But actually, there are plenty of other countries, this 3 here, the US, Germany and France, have all seen at least 1 quarter of flat or negative growth so far this year. So it's very much the reflection of a global crisis. But I think the UK is different in at least one respect, which is that we're the only major economy actually planning to raise taxes over the next year, in particular the big increase in corporation tax. You mentioned also the Bank of England's forecasts, which are relatively gloomy. They're more gloomy than most people's for the UK economy. But the key point there is that they're based on the assumption of unchanged government policy. So they're assuming no additional support with the cost of living, no new tax cuts, and the government presses ahead with the planned increases in corporation tax. So if we do get a new Prime Minister who's willing to change tack on fiscal policy, I think there's still a good chance that we avoid the technical definition of a recession that you described.
Really, even this late stage in the game, if a new Prime Minister comes in, when a new Prime Minister comes in on the 6th of September, in your view, there would be time to avert this sort of prediction of real recession?
Well, I think that's right. I mean, first of all, I expect growth to return to positive territory in the third quarter. So if there is going to be a recession starting in the fourth quarter, it has to mean that GDP falls in the first quarter of next year as well. So we've got time to avoid that technical definition of recession. But I'd also stress how important expectations and confidence are. At the moment, people are understandably not very confident about the economic outlook and personal finances in particular. But if we get a new Prime Minister who's willing to be a lot bolder, then that sentiment could change pretty quickly. In the meantime, business confidence actually is holding up reasonably well. Consumers are obviously worried about their bills, but businesses are reasonably happy, and actually business investment in the second quarter was quite strong. Our exports rebounded as well. So there are some signs of hope in the economy. But the absolutely key thing here, I think, is clearly going to be consumers. They are benefiting from the fact that the labour market is still very strong. So even the Bank of England isn't expecting a big increase in unemployment, but they still need a bit more help with their bills, and whether that's done through a combination of cost of living support, transfer payments, or tax cuts. I think the next Prime Minister, whoever he or she may be, needs to do more, and almost certainly will.